Summer had drunk too much at the company gala. She had no head for alcohol, and her drunk personality was even worse. Not the kind that turns wild or picks fights, but the kind that insists on cornering people to dissect their innermost feelings. She vaguely remembered that the person she'd refused to let go of last night had been Adrian. She couldn't recall exactly what she'd said, only that at the end she'd thrown up all over him. His handmade Italian suit was a total loss, and maybe a few drops had splashed onto the leather shoes as well. Oh, the scene was too mortifying. She didn't dare replay it. Adrian was a mild germaphobe, and as his executive secretary Summer knew it well. Every time a subordinate handed up documents, he told her to wipe them with a tissue first. He drank from one special cup and ate with his own set of utensils whenever she accompanied him to business dinners. The moment everyone settled in for small talk, she, the only idiot, would fish his personal chopsticks and bowl out of her purse and set them in front of him, looking for all the world like his nanny. He disliked being touched. It made him uncomfortable. Once she watched a bombshell deliberately trip in front of him. Not only did he not steady her, he leapt back 3 yards in disgust. Summer still remembered the woman's stricken face, yet when they passed documents and their fingers brushed, he never recoiled. Maybe physical contact from someone he knew was easier for him to accept. Still, no matter how well you knew him, hanging off his arm all night and then drenching him in vomit had to be beyond the pale. Right. Summer groaned. Her head pounded harder. Luckily, the New Year break started today, with Adrian immersed in holiday cheer. Maybe he would forget the stain she'd accidentally left on him. Reality proved her far too optimistic. Awake yet? Adrian asked over the phone. Instead of the expected fury, his tone held an unusual gentleness, even a teasing affection she'd never heard before. She couldn't process it. Sunlight speckled her fingers through the pale yellow curtains, and the silver ring on her hand flashed blindingly. She yelped. The phone hit the floor. It was Adrian's signet ring, not especially valuable, but deeply meaningful. Rumor said it had belonged to his maternal grandfather, and he always wore it on his right index finger. Why was it now circling her left ring finger? Had she not only puked on the CEO, but also swiped his ring? She fumbled the phone back up. "I'm outside your building," Adrian said. Another shriek. Another drop. This time, the handset landed dead. Screen black. Barefoot. She flew to the window and lifted a corner of the curtain. Sure enough, Adrian's black Bentley idled at the curb downstairs. "I'm screwed," she thought. The boss has come to settle the score. She gauged the odds and decided frontal engagement favored her enemy. Delay was the only viable tactic. Maybe if she stalled long enough his anger would cool. She threw clothes into a suitcase, slipped out the side gate, and was airborne before her nerves stopped jumping. 40 minutes later the plane touched down in Eastbrook, and Vance was waiting, beaming. "Didn't you say you'd be a few more days? I missed you and Dad, sweet talker." Yet Summer's mouth tasted of nothing but bitterness. Adrian kept 7 secretaries. She was the junior yet the favorite. Earlier he'd announced that next year one of them would be promoted to executive secretary, double salary, plus an apartment and a car. All her colleagues had bet on her, until last night, when she'd apparently coughed up her future along with the wine. Perhaps she ought to apologize sincerely. After all, the incident had nothing to do with her professional performance. Unfortunately, Adrian didn't separate public from private. When Summer first applied, the competition had been brutal. Over 100 dolled-up hopefuls, some buxom and brainless, some with glittering resumes, some trust fund princesses slumming it. The post of CEO secretary was hot, but Adrian himself, handsome, loaded, blue-blooded, elegant, drew even more heat. Most of them were really auditioning for Mrs. CEO. Summer had ability, but not the most. Education, but not the loftiest. Experience, but not the longest. A figure, but not the hottest. Looks, but not the loveliest. In short, she was average, unremarkable. Adrian picked her for a weird reason. Under a special skills she'd written, can perform magic tricks. Intrigued, he asked for an on-the-spot demo. Unprepared, she performed the simplest stunt. Snip a rope, tug it, and it's whole again. He said, "Welcome, you're my 7th secretary." She never dreamed that parlor trick trivia she'd learned online would hack a path straight into a Fortune 500 giant. Remembering that he'd hired her for such an unrelated talent made her feel her footing was ice-thin. Firing was unlikely, but exile, Siberian posting, or tiny shoes sewn for her feet seemed probable. She slept poorly for several nights. Every time she closed her eyes she saw Adrian's furious face. After a few days Vance cornered her. "Got a crush on your boss. You keep muttering CEO in your sleep." Summer sprayed a mouthful of water. "Mom, you're imagining things. I'm just so dedicated I even dream about work." Vance's eyes raked over her. Summer straightened defensively, poured another glass, and sipped nonchalantly. The landline rang. Vance answered, then called, "Sweetie, it's for you, your CEO." Water spewed again. The man was omnipotent. He'd even dug up her Eastbrook number. She must really have crossed him. She lifted the receiver and, while Vance's back was turned, pressed end, feigning conversation. She murmured, "Yes, CEO. Don't worry. The file will be ready. Happy New Year. Goodbye." To block a redial, she left the handset crooked. Vance clucked, "Your boss is a real slave driver. Can't let anyone rest even at New Year." Summer nodded vigorously. Her left eyelid twitched non-stop. Running could only last so long. The break would end. Everyone else gained holiday weight. Summer lost a full circle. Her first day back. The moment she stepped into the lobby, Fiona shrieked, "Summer baby. Missed you madly. One day apart feels like 3 autumns." She swept Summer into a bony hug and frowned at what she found. "Why so thin? Even for the CEO, you don't have to starve yourself." Out of the corner of her eye, Summer saw Adrian heading for the elevator. Ignoring Fiona's choice of, "for the CEO," instead of, "because of the CEO," her knees buckled and she bolted for the stairwell. Bounding upward, Fiona panted after her. "I get it, avoid gossip." Still, confessing to the CEO at the gala took serious guts. Summer's foot slipped, and she tumbled bump down the stairs, a searing pain shooting through her left ankle. Before she could scream, Fiona was already shrieking loud enough to shake the chandeliers. The brutal noise yanking every head in the lobby around. Even without turning, Summer could feel an arrow-sharp stare boring through her back. Great, she thought. She hadn't only sullied the CEO's body, she'd molested his soul. She struggled to push herself up, but Adrian was already towering over her, face dark as a blackboard, lips flattened to a single grim line. He thrust out a hand. "Mr. CEO, don't hit me. Sorry. So sorry. I babbled because I got trashed at the company gala. Please forget everything." His hand froze midair. Those long pale fingers trembled, curled into a fist, knuckles bleaching white. Summer swallowed and kept confessing. "Really, when I'm drunk I confess to anything. Once I even proposed to my dog." Adrian's face turned ink black. The whole lobby felt warped. No, I'm not comparing you to a dog, just giving an example." Slowly, he lowered his hand. Summer thought he'd walk away, but suddenly he bent, scooped her up, and told the assistant beside him, "Hospital." His arm felt like a steel bar across her back. No wriggle room. She caught the faint citrus note rising off his skin, laced with a trace of rosewood, Versace's Man Eau Fresh. Normally Adrian never let staff into his private life, but that one time he'd raced for a flight without cologne and ordered her to pick a replacement at a nearby mall. Summer knew zip about men's fragrances. She'd chosen the Versace purely for the eye-watering price tag and show-off bottle. Adrian loved it anyway, and had worn nothing else since. Tilting her head, she stared at the blue-black stubble and the clean-cut jaw. This is the guy who hates human contact. Did getting barfed on flip some whatever switch? It was only a sprain. The doctor wrapped it, prescribed a few pills, and told her to stay off her feet. Adrian said, "A minor injury doesn't warrant sick leave." See, revenge had begun. Summer dared not object. She snapped upright. "Yes, sir." Work wasn't really affected. Colleagues carted off every task that required walking. Adrian, however, dialed her extension just to pick a fight. "Summer, I have a proposal that must reach KD Shaw in person. It's confidential. No one else touches it." The word personally cracked like a whip. Summer's ankle throbbed. Half-closed blinds showed Adrian reclining in his chair. She hobbled in, heard his steady breathing, and knew he'd dozed off. The man could fall asleep anywhere. On the return flight from France, he'd conked out the instant she powered down her phone. Don't bank on serene male beauty. Guys who look flawless while asleep exist only in romance novels. Adrian slept with both arms folded, mouth slightly open, like a bewildered kid. She slid his signet ring onto the desk, praying the miracle of its reappearance would fry every circuit connected to curiosity. She hailed a cab to KD Tower, delivered the file. Shaw noticed the limp. "What happened to your leg?" "Summer, I twisted it on my way over. I'll have someone drive you home." She smiled. "Thanks, but I'm fine, just a scratch." The instant she stepped out, she wanted to cry. The elevator that had worked an hour ago now wore an out-of-order sign. 12 floors. If she hopped down each step, her foot would fall off. She debated waiting for repairs or swallowing her pride and asking Shaw for 2 interns to carry her. While she agonized, someone jogged up, jacket slung over an arm, necktie askew, breathing hard, and stopped in front of her. "CEO, what are you doing here?" Summer caught the rush of male scent, as though the air itself streamed Adrian, soaking into skin, into bone. He took a moment to steady his breathing. "Too much work. I forgot your foot. Summer blinked. Only then did she realize this was his roundabout apology. You should have reminded me, he added, half scolding. If the injury worsens it'll be serious. Now it was her fault. Hurt and snide, she said. How could I refuse a CEO order? Even marathon ready I'd crawl if you asked. He gave her a long look, then bent. Climb on. I'll carry you down. It's 12 floors. CEO, she reminded him kindly. On, he repeated, voice brooking no argument. She draped herself over his back, arms looped around his neck. The instant he straightened, the elevator dinged. A mechanic stepped out and yanked the sign away. Summer couldn't tell if she felt cheated or relieved. Elevators fixed. Put me down? Adrian didn't release her. He strode straight into the car. His back felt broad and warm. Bowing her head, she spotted a coin-sized crimson birthmark at his nape, a little star. When The Man from the Stars had aired, she joked to colleagues that Adrian really was star-born. They'd gasped, how do you know about the star on his neck? Looking at her as if she had skeletons in her bed. She'd backpedaled, it's just below the hairline. Look closely and anyone can see it. While most women stared at Adrian's face, profile, portfolio, only Summer saw his moods, likes, habits, everything. She knew shirt and shoe sizes, that he used Marvis toothpaste, that he preferred floral tea to coffee, that when he was angry he stuffed both hands in his pockets. At the gala she hadn't babbled drunken nonsense. She'd spoken stone-cold sober truth. For some reason Adrian reversed course and forced 3 days of sick leave on her, although she insisted she wasn't dying. During her exile he showed up once, arms full of frozen dumplings, instant noodles, hot dog sticks, apparently planning to poison her with junk. Lazy Summer scarfed half of it anyway. She knew he was furious. Anyone cornered and confessed to like that would be. She steeled herself for Siberia, but 2 weeks later Adrian promoted her. Executive secretary, double the salary, a private office, a company apartment, a company car. Summer refused to believe Adrian had been so dazzled by her competence that he'd forgiven the disaster she'd caused at the company gala. Either he'd been kicked in the head by a mule or his meridians had suddenly rerouted to the soles of his feet. Nothing else explained it. Sure enough, the foxtail appeared. Secretary Summer, you've been promoted. Surely you're treating everyone to dinner? She eyed him warily. What kind of boss strong-arms a subordinate into buying him a meal? Who volunteers to humble himself for free food? She didn't need 2 seconds to know he was scheming. President, I burned incense at the temple last year and asked the Bodhisattva for a promotion, she said, radiating innocence. The prayer worked, so I have to go back and fulfill my vow. Dinner will have to wait. Summer wanted to high-five herself for that stroke of genius. I'm the one who gave you the promotion, not some statue. Believe it or not, I do. I already bought the pig head, planning to haul it there this weekend. In that case, Adrian said, unhurried, I'll come along. Lately my luck's been garbage. Maybe the temple will scrub off the stink. When he said a garbage luck, did he mean her? Almost nobody hauls an actual pig head to temples anymore. Most people buy sticks of incense or drop a quiet temple donation, and the truly loaded might bankroll a gilded statue. Summer cursed herself for running her mouth. The night before, she'd stumbled half asleep to the bathroom and found the pig head grinning at her from the kitchen table, pure nightmare fuel. When Adrian pulled up, the bags under her eyes looked like bruises. Late night heart-to-heart with the Bodhisattva, he asked. Yep, she visited my dreams and said she adores the pig head I picked. Summer shoved the thing toward his face. Adrian recoiled 3 full steps. Color draining. She peeked around the snout, giggling. She also said my luck this year will be amazing. The head stank of cold fat and raw meat. Adrian's complexion went blotchy. He looked ready to gag. He fumbled a bottle of water from the cup holder, gulped, then glared at the pig. Drive yourself. Summer stroked the head tenderly. My car's parked under the new apartment. Give me a lift there first. Adrian slammed the Bentley's door. Take a cab. He rolled forward a yard, reversed, and lowered the window. I'll wait at the temple. He said it like he knew she'd bail if he let her out of sight. So Summer lugged the pig head to the curb and hailed a taxi. Adrian waited more than an hour. They could have gone separately, his bad luck scrub, her vow fulfillment, but he insisted on a 2-person field trip. The ritual went smoothly, though the old monk accepted the pig head with visible reluctance, advising, benefactor, a simple temple donation would suffice. Summer flipped a single coin into the merit box. Adrian finished kowtowing, extracted a thick wad of 20s and stuffed them in. President, she said sweetly, anytime life annoys you, feel free to tell me. My consultation fees way cheaper than the Buddha's. He slanted her a look. Can you guarantee me an heir by next year? No. Adrian collapsed collapsed the moment they got back. The doctor blamed overwork and ordered rest. Summer figured the pig head had traumatized him. Colleagues filed through the hospital wing. Summer, buried in boxes, kept postponing her visit until Adrian was discharged. She never made it. Fiona cornered her. Cold. Summer, drawing a bright red line. A man's in a hospital bed and you can't spare an hour? I was moving. Even Shaw from KD dropped by. And that guy schedules in nanoseconds. Your crappy little move, busier than him? She really was swamped. She'd taken a vacation day just to relocate. For years in the old apartment, had produced enough stuff to fill 3 trucks. The new company flat was on the 17th floor, half a day lost hauling cartons upstairs. Another night unpacking and scrubbing grime. When would she have visited? She laid out the excuse the next morning. Adrian didn't scold her. He beamed. Moving is festive. None of us have seen your new place. Host a housewarming tonight. Celebrate the new apartment and the new title in one go. They hadn't visited the old place either. Summer knew he'd circle back to the free meal. The outer office heard every word and chimed in right. Secretary Summer still owes us a promotion dinner. My place isn't ready yet. Next time. Adrian cut in. Then we'll eat at the hotel. The one we use for clients. The manager knows you. We get 25% off. He was going to extort that banquet if it killed him. With 20 coworkers watching, refusal would look stingy. Summer rang the hotel and booked a table while Adrian smiled the smile of a cat who'd already eaten the canary. During dinner his agenda surfaced. He kept nudging people to toast her. Lucy. Secretary Summer just leveled up. How about a cheers? Sam. Aren't you going to clink glasses with the woman of the hour? Molly. She bought new digs. Congratulate her. Derek. You're the company booze tank. On a night this happy you'd better keep her company. All together now, raise your glasses to Secretary Summer's rocket promotion. Since the last company gala Summer had practically quit alcohol. Someone with her comic book drunk streak should stay sober. She offered a timid smile. President. His eyes flicked over, silencing her. Secretary Summer, you won't deny me face. Will you? He swirled scarlet wine in his glass. Liquid climbing, falling. His stare could liquefy titanium. She'd watched him melt boardrooms with it. He'd taught her, never drop your gaze in negotiation. No matter your cards. Look the other side dead in the eye and own the table. Summer tried. She met Adrian's stare, faltered, dropped her eyes, bit her lip, lifted her glass, and flashed a counterfeit grin. All thanks to the president's grooming, let me toast you. While he glanced away she flicked the wine onto the wall behind her. Everyone saw. No one spoke. Toast after toast she poured away 90%. The table traded knowing looks, half sympathy, half admiration. When the charade reached critical mass, she slung an arm around a startled junior secretary. You know what? I've crushed on you forever. The girl's mouth twitched like she'd had a mini stroke. Afraid the kid would crack. Summer mashed her cheek against her own shoulder. Shh. Big sis will take real good care of you from now on. Adrian watched the performance without expression, then strolled over. Summer's entire spine flash froze. She leaned toward the other secretary and whispered, "Get me home. Fast." But the woman suddenly turned traitor, shoving her straight into Adrian's arms. "Mr. CEO, you take Summer home." The whole crowd gave them knowing smirks and vanished in seconds. Summer stretched a trembling hand toward the empty doorway and wailed like her heart was ripping in two. "Darling, come back. Don't leave me." Adrian decided she was an embarrassment. "Stop the drunken theatrics," he hissed, half dragging her to the car. All the way home she tried to pick the perfect moment to sober up. Adrian drove fast yet silk smooth, and before she could solve the equation of minutes of sobriety versus miles left, the Bentley was already parked at her building. She simply squeezed her eyes shut and played dead to the world drunk. He carried her out of the car, into the elevator, fished her keys from her purse, unlocked the door, and laid her on the bed. He didn't leave. He sat on the edge of the mattress. Summer dared not crack an eyelid. She could feel his gaze stapled to her face. Is he debating whether to take advantage of me while I'm wasted? She wondered. She was equally torn. If he lost control and pounced, should she fight him off? While she agonized, she heard him murmur, "You only say you love me when you're drunk?" Summer felt lightning strike her spine. She nearly jack-in-the-boxed off the mattress. What does that mean? He knows. Her eyelids fluttered like hummingbird wings, but she stayed fake unconscious. Adrian sighed, closed the door, and left. Next morning at the office she pretended nothing had happened. A coworker grinned like a cat full of canary. "So, anything wild go down last night?" Summer rolled her eyes. "Nothing." Adrian acted the same, as though the words she'd heard were a hallucination. She started to doubt doubt herself. Maybe crushing on him so long had finally broken her brain and invented that sentence. For days, she tiptoed around, glancing through the floor-to-ceiling glass that separated her new corner office from his. Every time she looked up, he seemed to be looking back, the corner of his mouth quirking, a glint of office lamp light flashing across the lenses he only wore while working, like some cartoon villain plotting murder. Cold sweat dripped. She had to prove she had zero indecent thoughts about him. Apart from slipping at the gala, she'd left no tracks. He's bluffing. Right. He'd done it before. April Fools. He'd claimed he'd forgotten a vital contract in Italy and begged her to fly it over. She'd bought a ticket, landed in Milan, found no Adrian, and paid for the flight herself. You pay the toll for gullibility, he'd said later. She'd glared, wishing she had whiskers to bristle. Clearly she needed divine help. She picked Guanine's birthday, wrote Adrian a leave slip. He denied it. That Thursday is Mom's birthday. She wants you at dinner. Your mom's birthday. Why me? Don't you do magic tricks? So she was hired entertainment. Brain short-circuiting. She blurted, is there a performance fee? He gave her a slow, loaded look. Yes. Generous? The corner of his eye twitched. You won't be disappointed. Cash in mind. She shelved the temple visit, hit the mall for a full tux, top hat, cane, and learned high-difficulty illusions. At this rate, she told herself, after a few more Caldwell birthdays she'd give David Copperfield a run for his money. Thursday rolled around. Nobody at the Caldwell estate even said the word magic. She'd expected a ballroom bash. Instead, it was a family supper, just Adrian and his parents. So why summon the clown? She was decked out in black tails, satin top hat, and a cane. If Adrian hadn't clamped onto her arm, she'd have bolted into the night. Dinner tasted like cardboard. Afterward, Caldwell kept her chatting, then slid the jade bracelet off her own wrist and onto Summer's, insisting it was a meeting gift. Only when the older woman pretended offense did Summer accept. Thinking, so this is this fee? Next they all watched a video footage from last year's gala. Summer's stomach dropped. She realized Adrian's parents had been there. They'd seen her vomit on their son and confess her love. Mortified, she stared at the carpet, cheeks on fire, until her own drunken voice slurred from the TV, Adrian, you know I've loved you forever. My heart. She poked her chest. It's so full of you it's gonna burst. She slapped a hand over her eyes. Be my boyfriend, date me, okay? She covered her face completely. Okay, the on-screen Adrian answered. She whipped her head toward him. He smirked, eyes sparkling with mischief. Already knew. Why so shocked? So that was it. She'd confessed at the gala. He'd said yes. She'd blacked out and kept on secretly crushing. His parents assumed they were a couple. Hence the family dinner invite. Everything clicked. Ha! He liked her back. The video rolled on to the soundtrack of her hurling on him. Kill me now. Epilogue. Adrian, what was with your grandfather's signet ring? I slipped it on so you'd remember you'd proposed. Didn't expect you to bolt and overthink. You knew I loved you? Yep. I thought I buried it pretty deep. How? 3 things can't hide long: poverty, a cough, and love.